The aroma of garlic and herbs filled the kitchen as I stood by the stove, stirring in a simmering pot of marinara sauce. I couldn't help but smile at the thought of the romantic dinner I had planned for Mark. After weeks of his distant behavior, I hoped that a cozy evening together would rekindle the spark we once had. The table was set with our best dishes, flickering candles casting a warm glow across the room. I glanced at the clock. He should be home any minute now. As I prepared the salad, I caught a glimpse of Mark's phone charging on the counter. A message notification lit up the screen, but the moment I reached for it, I hesitated. It was probably just work-related stress, I reassured myself. He had been working late a lot lately, and I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Instead, I focused on the dinner, forcing the nagging worries to the back of my mind. "Sarah!" Mark's voice echoed through the hallway as he stepped inside, the door closing with a quiet thud. "I'm home." "Hey, love, dinner's almost ready," I replied, cheerful despite the slight tremor of anxiety in my stomach. When he walked into the kitchen, he looked tired, his eyes shadowed and distant. I leaned in to kiss him, but he sidestepped, heading straight for the fridge. "You made pasta?" he asked, his tone a mix of surprise and indifference. "Yeah, I thought it would be nice to have a special dinner," I said, trying to mask the disappointment in my voice. "Just the two of us." "Sounds good," he mumbled, pouring himself a glass of water. I glanced at him, sensing the weight of something unspoken in the air. As we sat down to eat, I could feel the tension between us, like a thick fog that refused to lift. "So, how was your day?" I ventured, hoping to spark a deeper conversation. "It was fine," he replied, avoiding my gaze. "Just the usual stuff at the office." I nodded, pushing my pasta around the plate. "You've been working a lot lately. Is everything okay?" "Yeah, just busy, you know." He finally looked at me, but there was a distance in his eyes that made my heart ache. "I'm fine." The meal continued in awkward silence, my heart sinking further with each passing moment. After dinner, as I cleared the table, my phone buzzed on the counter, breaking the stillness. Curious, I glanced at the screen and saw an unknown number. The message read, "I hope you're ready for the truth. Tonight is the night." My pulse quickened, a mixture of anxiety and intrigue surging through me. Who was this? "Hey, is that a work message?" Mark called from the living room, his voice cutting through my thoughts. No, just a spam text," I replied, my voice shaky. I quickly deleted the message, but my mind raced with possibilities. What truth? What did they mean? Deciding I needed to find out more, I took a deep breath and steeled myself. I could feel the weight of the unknown pressing down on me, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. Later that night, after Mark had retreated to his office with his laptop, I felt a compulsion to investigate. I tiptoed toward his office door, heart pounding like a drum in my chest. The door was slightly ajar, and I could hear the soft click of keys as he typed away. I hesitated, my hand hovering over the doorknob. With a deep breath, I pushed the door open just a crack. My heart raced as I caught sight of Mark, his brow furrowed in concentration, unaware of my presence. But it wasn't his work that caught my eye, it was his phone, buzzing incessantly on the desk. I leaned in closer, just enough to catch a glimpse of the screen. My stomach dropped. There, in a string of messages, were flirtatious text, sweet nothings exchanged between him and Linda, my mother-in-law. Each word pierced through the air like a knife, twisting deeper with every line I read. "Can't wait to see you tonight," one message read. My breath hitched in my throat. Fury and heartbreak collided within me. I backed away slowly, my mind swirling with the betrayal I had just uncovered. I knew I had to confront them. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was a betrayal of the deepest kind, one that could shatter our family and everything I believed in. I stood in the dim light of the hallway, trembling with rage and hurt. My heart ached for the marriage I thought we had, the love I thought was real. But now, everything felt tainted, a delicate facade crumbling beneath the weight of hidden truths. With a newfound resolve, I vowed to confront Mark and Linda, to demand answers, and to reclaim the trust that had been so cruelly ripped away from me. The air in our bedroom felt thick with tension as I confronted Mark. My heart raced, each beat echoing the whirlwind of emotions I had been grappling with since discovering the texts. "How could you do this to me, Mark?" I demanded, my voice shaking with a mix of disbelief and hurt. I was trembling, but I needed to be strong. I couldn't let him see how much his betrayal had shattered me. Mark's brow furrowed in confusion, his eyes darting away as if seeking an escape from the truth I was laying bare before him. "Sarah, you're misunderstanding everything. Those texts—" "Misunderstanding?" I interrupted, my voice rising. "You're texting my mother-in-law with flirty messages, Mark. What part of that is misunderstanding?" Each word felt like a dagger, piercing through the facade of our seemingly perfect life. "Linda is she's always been like that. It doesn't mean anything." He ran a hand through his hair, frustration etched on his face. "You know how she is. She jokes around, but it's nothing serious. I swear. Nothing serious." I scoffed, feeling a mix of anger and despair. "You think this is just some harmless joke? You've crossed a line, Mark. This isn't just a little banter. It's betrayal." My voice broke, and I felt tears stinging my eyes. I blinked them away, refusing to let him see me cry. He stepped closer, his expression softened, but I could sense the denial still hanging in the air between us. "Sarah, please. You need to trust me. I love you. I would never do anything to hurt you intentionally." "Then why didn't you tell me?" I shot back, my emotions boiling over. "Why hide it? You think I wouldn't have understood? I would have listened." "Because I didn't think it was a big deal," he exclaimed, his voice rising defensively. "You always overreact about my mom. I didn't want to make it worse." "Overreact?" I shook my head, disbelief coursing through me. "I can't believe you're trying to downplay this, Mark. You're involved with her. Emotionally or physically, I don't even know anymore." I closed my eyes, the thought suffocating me. "But I can't just stand here and pretend everything is fine. We're not fine." Mark took a step back, his bewilderment morphing into anger. "You need to calm down, Sarah. You're blowing this out of proportion. It's not like I'm having an affair." "And how would you know?" I shot back, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "Because your texts don't suggest otherwise?" My mind raced, and I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. I couldn't stand to look at him anymore. I needed air, space, anything to escape this claustrophobic reality. "I can't do this right now," I muttered, turning on my heel. I felt his gaze bore into my back, a mix of confusion and frustration, but I didn't care. I stormed out of the room, my heart pounding in my chest like a war drum. I needed to get away. I found myself in the kitchen, leaning against the countertop, trying to steady my breathing. The familiar scent of coffee did little to calm me. I wanted to scream, to cry, to do something to release this pent-up fury. I pulled my phone from my pocket, contemplating whether to call Emily. She always knew how to help me through my worst moments, but I couldn't bear to share this painful fracture in my life just yet. The sound of laughter from the living room pierced through my thoughts, and I froze. Mark and Linda? I gritted my teeth, the anger rising again. How could he be so casual after everything? I felt like a ghost, hovering between two worlds, the one I thought I knew and the one that was crumbling around me. I tiptoed toward the living room, my heart racing with the need to know what they were discussing. Peeking around the corner, I saw them sitting on the couch, too close for comfort. Mark leaned back, his laughter mingling with Linda's, and I felt a surge of bile rise in my throat. "What's the surprise?" Mark asked, a grin on his face, his eyes sparkling with something I couldn't quite identify. I held my breath, straining to hear, my heart pounding like a drum. "You'll see," Linda replied, her voice light and teasing. "Just trust me. You're going to love it." I stumbled back, my heart racing, with a mix of dread and confusion. What surprise could they possibly be planning? My thoughts spiraled, each one darker than the last. I pressed my back against the wall, the weight of betrayal heavy on my chest. What was happening in my life? The laughter echoed in my ears, taunting me. I needed answers, and I would get them, even if it meant diving deeper into this nightmare. The sun hung high in the sky as I parked my car outside the nondescript hotel, my heart pounding in my chest. I had followed Linda, my mother-in-law, with a sense of dread that gnawed at my insides. The familiar anxiety twisted like a knife, urging me to turn back. But I couldn't. I needed to know the truth, to confirm the suspicion that had settled in my mind like a dark cloud. I watched her from a distance, her figure unmistakable as she approached the entrance. She looked composed, her hair perfectly styled, as if she had no idea that I was lurking just beyond the threshold of her carefully curated world. My hands trembled as I clutched my phone, uncertain whether to record this moment or simply to absorb it. A few heartbeats later, Mark appeared, his tall frame unmistakable even from afar. I felt my breath hitch in my throat, the air growing thick and suffocating. "No, no, no," I whispered, shaking my head as if I could will this nightmare away. There they were, together, stepping into the hotel as if it were any other day. I felt hollow inside, a pit of betrayal opening wide beneath me. I couldn't move, couldn't think. My mind raced with a torrent of emotions: anger, despair, disbelief. How could he do this to me? To us? I forced myself to breathe, to think clearly. I couldn't confront them here, not in public where I could make a scene. I needed to gather evidence, to arm myself for the inevitable confrontation that loomed ahead. I turned away, my heart heavy as I made my way back to the car, feeling a part of me shatter with every step I took. The drive home was a blur. I barely registered the streets I passed, lost in a whirlwind of thoughts and feelings. I parked in our driveway, taking a moment to steady myself before stepping inside. The house felt eerily quiet, a stark contrast to the storm brewing within me. I dropped my keys on the table, their jingle echoing in the silence. As I wandered into the living room, I caught sight of our wedding photo, a reminder of the love we had built together. I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes, but I blinked them away. I couldn't afford to crumble now. I hitched a breath, and a plan began to form in my mind. I would confront Linda, but I had to do it on my terms, with my heart as my shield. Later that evening, I found myself pacing in the kitchen, the smell of dinner wafting through the air. But my appetite had vanished. I could hear Mark in the living room, engrossed in something on his phone, blissfully unaware of the tempest that raged in my heart. I was furious, but deep down, I felt a twinge of sorrow for the man I once loved so fiercely. "Sarah." Mark's voice broke through my thoughts, pulling me back to reality. "Dinner's almost ready. Are you okay? You seem—" I turned to him, my heart racing. "No, Mark, I'm not okay. I saw you with Linda today, at the hotel." His face paled, and for a moment I reveled in the surprise that flickered across his features. "What? That's impossible. You must be mistaken." "Don't lie to me," I shouted, the anger spilling over. "I followed her. I saw you both go in together." "How could you—" he started, but I cut him off. "Don't you dare act like I'm the crazy one here. I know what I saw. Mark, you've betrayed me, and for what? For her." He hesitated, searching for words that never came. I could see the conflict in his eyes, the realization that he had been caught, yet still he clung to denial. It's not what you think." "Then tell me what I think it is, because all I see is your mother, my mother-in-law, sneaking around with you, and it makes me sick. Is this what our marriage has come to?" Mark stepped back, the weight of my accusation seeming to hit him like a physical blow. "Sarah, please, let's just talk about this calmly." "Calmly?" I laughed, a bitter sound. "You want me to talk calmly when everything I thought I knew is crumbling around me? You don't get to decide how I feel. You've made your choice." As I spoke, I could feel the anger radiating from me, a palpable force that filled the air. But beneath that anger lay something deeper, a profound sadness that threatened to consume me. I turned away from him, my heart aching, knowing that whatever came next would change everything. I was ready to fight for my truth, but at what cost? The morning light filtered through the curtains, casting a warm glow across the kitchen as I sat at the table, my thoughts swirling like the steam rising from my coffee cup. I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal that clung to me, suffocating and heavy. Mark's laughter from the previous night echoed in my ears, mingled with Linda's, and I felt the bile rise in my throat. How could they? How could he betray me so shamelessly, right under my nose? I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. I needed to dig deeper. Linda had always been the perfect mother-in-law, charming and supportive, but now I wondered how much of that was a facade. I grabbed my laptop and began searching for information on her past. Each click felt like a step into a dark abyss, and I was terrified of what I might find. Hours passed as I scoured the internet, and just when I thought I wouldn't uncover anything, a name caught my eye. Linda had lived in another city before marrying Mark's father, and there were whispers. I read article after article, my heart racing as I pieced together a troubling narrative. She had a pattern of seducing her daughters-in-law's partners, and my stomach churned at the thought. This wasn't just a betrayal. It was a calculated move on her part. Sarah? Mark's voice pulled me from my thoughts, and I quickly closed the laptop, pretending to sip my coffee. He walked into the kitchen, a bright smile on his face. Good morning. I've been thinking we should take a weekend getaway. Just the two of us. What do you think? I forced a smile, my heart pounding. That sounds great, Mark. Really. But inside, I was a storm of conflicting emotions. How could he plan a trip while I was drowning in this betrayal? Did he really think a weekend away could erase what he had done? You seem off. Are you okay? He leaned against the counter, concern etched in his features. I'm fine, I replied, my voice sharper than intended. I needed to keep my cool. Just tired, I guess. He nodded, though I could see the worry in his eyes. As he began to prepare breakfast, I felt a flicker of guilt for the facade I was maintaining. But I reminded myself that I needed to gather more evidence before confronting him again. I couldn't let my emotions cloud my judgment. Later that day, I received a call from Emily. Her voice was a lifeline, pulling me out of the abyss I was sinking into. Sarah, I've been talking to someone who knows more about Mark and Linda's relationship. You need to meet them. It could be crucial. Emily, I don't know if I'm ready for this, I admitted, my heart racing at the prospect of more revelations. You have to be, she insisted. This could explain everything, and you deserve to know the truth. I can't stand seeing you like this. Okay, tell me more, I said, trying to suppress the tremor in my voice. It's someone who used to work with Linda. She has stories, things that could change your perspective completely. Where do I meet them? I asked, determination creeping back into my voice. Let's meet at that cafe on Elm. I'll text you the time. Just be careful, Sarah. You don't know what you might find. As I hung up, a rush of adrenaline coursed through me. I was stepping into uncharted territory, but I needed to uncover the truth, no matter how painful it might be. I glanced at Mark, who was still blissfully unaware of the storm brewing just beneath the surface. The day dragged on as I prepared for the meeting, my mind racing with possibilities. What if the stories Emily's contact had were true? What if Linda was more than just a manipulative mother-in-law? I felt a mix of fear and resolve. I was ready to confront the truth, whatever it might be. As I drove to the cafe, my heart pounded in my chest. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was on the brink of something monumental. I parked and took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. The bell above the cafe door chimed as I stepped inside, my eyes scanning the room for Emily and her contact. And there they were, sitting at a corner table, their expressions serious. As I approached, I steeled myself for the revelations that awaited me. I had no idea how this meeting would change everything. As I sat across from Emily's contact, a man named Jake, I could feel the weight of the world pressing down on my shoulders. The small cafe was dimly lit, and the aroma of coffee filled the air, but I couldn't focus on anything but the burning questions in my mind. Jake leaned in closer, his voice low. You need to understand, Sarah. Linda has a history. She's seduced her daughter's-in-law's partners before. I felt a cold wave wash over me, my heart racing as his words settled in. What do you mean? I whispered, barely able to contain my disbelief. She's done this before? With who? Jake sighed, glancing around the cafe as if ensuring no one was eavesdropping. There was your sister-in-law, Jessica, and before that, another one. It's like a pattern with her. She preys on the vulnerabilities of the women in the family. It's sickening, really. The anger that had been simmering inside me ignited into a wild flame. How could she? How could my mother-in-law betray me in such a heinous way? I need proof, I said, my voice steady despite the chaos in my mind. Do you have anything? Jake reached into his bag and pulled out a small folder. I've kept records of her past, messages, photos, even eyewitness accounts. You have to be careful with this information, though. It can be dangerous. I took the folder from him, my fingers trembling as I opened it. Inside were screenshots of texts, blurred photos, and dated accounts of Linda's manipulative encounters. Each piece of evidence sent a jolt of betrayal through me, and I could feel the tears prickling at the corners of my eyes. I can't believe this is happening, I murmured, horrified. I thought I could trust her. People often wear masks, Sarah, Jake replied softly. The truth is often hidden beneath the surface. You have to confront Mark. He needs to understand the gravity of the situation. I left the cafe with the folder clutched tightly in my hands, a storm brewing inside me. As I drove home, I replayed every moment in my mind, each laugh shared with Linda, every sweet gesture she had made toward me. It all felt like a sick joke now. I had to confront Mark, and I had to do it now. When I arrived home, the house was eerily quiet. Mark must have been working late again. I paced the living room, my heart pounding as I waited for him to return. The folder felt heavy in my hands, a tangible reminder of the betrayal that threatened to shatter my world. Finally, I heard the front door click open. Mark stepped inside, his face lighting up when he saw me. Hey, babe, I didn't expect you to be home, he said, his voice warm and inviting. But I wasn't in the mood for warmth. I needed answers. Mark, we need to talk, I said, my tone sharper than I intended. His smile faltered, and confusion clouded his expression. Is everything okay? He asked, stepping closer. I took a deep breath, summoning every ounce of courage. No, everything is not okay. I know about you and Linda. His face went pale, the color draining from his cheeks. What are you talking about? He stammered, his hands instinctively raising in a defensive gesture. I have proof, Mark, I said, pulling the folder from my bag and slapping it onto the coffee table between us. You have no idea what she's done before. This isn't just about you and her. It's about a pattern of betrayal. Mark's eyes darted to the folder, then back to me. Sarah, please. You have to understand. Understand what? I interrupted, my voice rising. That you've been sleeping with my mother-in-law? That you've allowed her to manipulate you? Do you even realize how deep this goes? He ran a hand through his hair, visibly shaken. I didn't mean for it to happen. I felt trapped, caught between you and her. Trapped? I echoed, incredulous. You think I'm the problem here? You're the one who chose to betray me. Mark's face contorted with a mix of frustration and regret. I never thought it would go this far. She made me believe it was all okay. Okay? I spat back, anger boiling beneath my skin. Do you think this is okay? You've completely shattered the trust we built. He opened his mouth to respond, but the words seemed to catch in his throat. I saw the realization wash over him. He hadn't just underestimated my resolve. He had underestimated the damage his actions had done to our marriage. Sarah, I'm sorry, he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. I never wanted to hurt you, but I could see the cracks forming in our relationship, and a part of me wondered if it was even worth saving. The confrontation had begun, but the real battle was just beginning, and I wasn't sure either of us was ready for what lay ahead. My heart raced as I stared into Mark's eyes, searching for the truth behind the turmoil that had erupted between us. The air in the room felt thick, heavy with unspoken words and emotions that clawed at my insides. "You have feelings for her?" I finally managed to whisper, the betrayal slicing through me like a knife. Mark ran a hand through his hair, frustration etched across his face. "It's not what you think, Sarah. I don't want to feel this way. I love you. I really do." His voice trembled, a mix of desperation and confusion. "But Linda, she's always been there, and I guess I got lost somewhere along the way. I never meant for it to happen." I took a step back, my stomach churning. "Lost? You think that makes it okay? She's my mother-in-law, Mark. This isn't just some fling. This is our family." I felt the tears pooling in my eyes, but I fought against them. I wouldn't let him see my weakness. "Please, let me explain," he pleaded, his voice cracking. "It started as comfort. I was struggling, and she was always there with a listening ear. I thought I could handle it. I thought I could keep it from you." He stepped closer, reaching for my hand, but I recoiled. "Keep it from me. You thought you could just hide this? You're not just betraying me, you're betraying our entire marriage," I shouted, the anger flaring hot in my chest. "How could you do this to us?" He looked crushed, his eyes welling with tears. "I didn't want to hurt you. I never wanted to hurt you. I thought it was harmless at first." He paused, searching for the right words. But then it became something more than I ever intended. I shook my head, feeling as if the ground beneath me was crumbling. "You need to choose, Mark. Do you want me, or do you want her?" Just as I thought I was reaching a decision, my phone buzzed violently on the table, interrupting our heated exchange. I glanced at the screen, and my heart dropped. The unknown number had messaged again, this time with a video link. My hands trembled as I hesitated, the dread settling in my stomach. "Sarah, don't," Mark exclaimed, stepping forward. "You don't know what it is." "I have to know," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. I clicked the link, my breath hitching in my throat. As the video loaded, I could feel Mark's eyes boring into me, a mix of fear and regret swirling in the atmosphere. The screen flickered to life, and my blood ran cold as I saw them, Mark and Linda, locked in a passionate embrace, their bodies entwined in a way I had never imagined. My heart shattered into a million pieces as I watched the betrayal unfold before my eyes. I could hardly breathe, the weight of their infidelity crashing down on me like a tidal wave. "No, no, no," I gasped, pressing my hands to my mouth to stifle the sobs that threatened to escape. I felt dizzy, the world around me spinning as the reality of the situation sunk in. This was not just a momentary lapse of judgment, this was a full-blown affair. Mark's voice broke through the fog of my despair. "Sarah, please, I can explain. I didn't know it was going to happen. It was a mistake." But his words fell on deaf ears as I continued to watch, horrified and entranced, unable to look away. The video ended abruptly, the screen fading to black, leaving me in a suffocating silence. My heart raced, every beat echoing the pain coursing through me. Just as I tried to process what I had witnessed, a final message appeared on the screen. "This is just the beginning." I felt my breath hitch in my throat, the implications of those words looming over me like a dark cloud. My mind raced with questions. What did that mean? What else had they hidden? As I stared blankly at my phone, I realized I was standing on the precipice of a decision that would change everything. "Sarah, please," Mark's voice broke through my haze. "I never wanted this to happen. We can fix this." But as I looked at him, I couldn't shake the feeling that the path ahead was fraught with uncertainty. My future, our future, hung in the balance, teetering on the edge of a knife.